My name is Kumaraswamy Ponnambalam, and short name that everyone knows me here is by Ponnu. I work as a professor at the Department of System Design Engineering, and Kumary, as you could guess, is my daughter, and who has been educating things that I didn't think of for a long time. And she's making me try to say this hard word, regenerative economics. I still have problem pronouncing it. She can introduce herself.
My name is Kumary. I have a background in forestry, but then during my master's degree, I started to look at behavioral economics and more of the landscape behind decision making. And now I'm concerned more with streetscapes and how streetscapes determine or reflect our decision making.
You may remember my question yesterday about impact of culture on landscape.
Yes.
I never thought of it.
Okay.
And when she told me that, I said, what? Culture impact landscape in another country? Tell me how. And then she explained to me, and I think I asked that question yesterday. Same with the, and same with another thing that I didn't think of is like 10 years ago, she told me that with climate change, soil will change. I said, what? How? How can climate change change the soil? And then of course, now I understand what she meant is that, the entire flora and fauna changes because of climate change. Heat moves out, then plants change and bugs change, birds change. Of course, the soil change because all the organic matter comes from these biotic things. So these are things I've learned from her. So I'm trying to now put mathematics to that. And of course, she keeps teaching me how to do the thing that is not mathematics.
All right, excellent. So you're already showing our purpose of our conference in your own presentation. So
yes, and
please
it's
go ahead.
it's what we say interdisciplinary. So this is the first time we are going to try to do this together. We'll try to of course finish in time.
Yes, I've got the timer running. So
yes, so I have these topics there, but the most important thing that we want to show is two things. That is what people are saying now, what's regenerative economics and how it's going to solve all our problems. And of course, the other thing is we want to also say from a practical point of view, where if you remember Sarah's talk yesterday is about changing behavior. And we try to change our own behavior a tiny bit, and how that influence is just called, again, spreading, but we haven't done survey like Luna did. So Luna's work is amazing. If we can replicate things like that in the future, that's our hope, so that's okay. So I think people have been looking at this problem for a while and coming up with different solutions, because we started with economics, which basically takes raw resources and make products. That's all it cared about, economics, and that's all we cared about in the beginning. We didn't think of the side effects, for example. We only talked about the benefits, very little about side effects. So I always say, look, as soon as we put a very tall chimney, and what we try to do is move our problem to somebody else. So we never stopped the problem from happening, but we just put it on somebody else. That was okay in the long time ago. Because we thought, well, it's just going to the sea or somewhere that nobody's living, but that's not true anymore. We are all affected by these tall chimneys, and that's something that we're trying to include in economic evaluation, or at least economists are trying to do, and they got all these things there, but somehow that's still not getting to the business. So this is where regenerative economics comes in. So somebody coined this word regenerative capitalism, John Fullerton, only in 2015. But again, it sounded a little bit too much of capitalism, communism kind of thing. So somebody changed it to regenerative economy or economics. So that's what now we're trying to do. The major difference between the previous standard, well-known economics, and this is here we are trying to actually produce what is called a natural capital, which is simply like could include as simple as growing trees, putting carbon into the ground with other materials, like even non-renewable materials, or anything that makes the land more valuable. Okay, because in the old economics, land is one of the major natural capital. Okay, so that's kind of the thing that regenerative economics is hoping for us to think about, but also trying to bring benefits that we didn't, consider beyond the economic benefit before. Okay, so we'll see as we go along. Again, the whole idea of regenerative economics is that if you only did sustainability today, we already screwed up a lot. So we're going to be sustainable at a very low level compared to what we could be. So the whole idea of regenerative economics is actually improve it. So it's more a design to improve things as well as sustainable. So it's not because sustainability could be just same thing all the time, but that could be not good enough for today because we kind of made it worse in the last about 100 years. So regenerative economics is trying to make us bring more so-called natural capital that we don't have enough of. Okay? It could be even clean air, for example, right? This is just a simple way of showing numerical benefits from the old environmental economics, which is basically in this case is saying global warming potential of battery storage versus pump storage hydropower. But in both cases, the storage is keeping electricity when it's excess and then releasing it when we need it. But here you can see that this did not include regenerative economics. For one thing, battery storage is very hard to put more regenerative economics in it, but whereas pump storage is a natural solution, so it can actually have more potential for having or for us to implement regenerative economics. For example, when you have pump storage systems, natural reservoirs, so you can grow trees around it, you can make a nice place for people to visit to improve their health benefits, as Sarah was saying. Rebecca was saying. So there are these benefits that were not originally considered as an important thing, but can be included now and accounted for. So then accounting for natural capital is good, but the whole idea of regenerative economics is actually designed for it. Okay, so there's a huge difference. So I'm going to just only say two things here because I don't want to go through all of them. The most important, of course, is system thinking. I'm coming from systems design engineering. Of course, I love this word system thinking. Everybody says it, but I find it's not as well applied as it could be, as we saw that we all into our own silos. So the whole idea of this conference, I hope, is to make break these silos and we work together, because each of us are like this famous story of 6 blind men figuring out an elephant. None of them know exactly, but they all have their own view. So I will not say too much and let Kumary talk now.
So I'm coming from not the research perspective, but I'm going to come from the lifestyle perspective. And I've lived the lifestyle of urbanity and the new urbanity of green economics with biking and walking to work and shopping sustainable foods and living in a neighborhood that has access to all these resources. And then when I came to Waterloo, I found out that's impossible. It's way too expensive. I don't have a car. I can't walk everywhere. People don't understand why I care so much about the environment. The communities aren't readily available. And the lifestyle is so immense and the footprint is so large that it's also hard on your mental health, right? And so looking at these questions, I thought, what does the street look like when it's a regenerative economic street? And it definitely doesn't look like the mall. It looks more like a street with a coffee house, a bakery, a bookshop, a flower shop, a hair cutting salon, and all these businesses that have more of an influence on your lifestyle and less of an influence on what you carry home in your car and you bring back to your home, and you often don't use that much because it's a wasteful society. So then how do we generate these regenerative economic streets? Like what do we need to maintain these businesses? For example, in Waterloo, I saw that during COVID, a lot of the regenerative economic businesses like Direct Trade Coffee and the Zero Waste store went out of business. So we created the opportunities, but we weren't able to sustain the opportunities. And this is where we need modelers to help us evaluate the risk that we take and how much time and scale we need to make these decisions. And then what else do we need to keep them on the streets? So then we're looking at modeling design. So you have to model the market. So it's not just about the market that exists. You have to think of the lifestyle and then think, okay, what do they clean their hair with? What do they do their nails with? What are the basic needs of every economy? What's the transportation that's available? What's the health benefits? And then pair with other environmentalists and economists to develop a wider range of knowledge about the communities that we live in, instead of bringing all of the knowledge that we have about these communities from the research sector, but also taking it from our lives, like our own methods of eating and building our communities together. So here we're just looking at what it would be like to have a regenerative economic landscape. This is our house. We have solar panels. We have a garden. We have rain collection, and we've been working on drip irrigation. And honestly, it's a lot of work. So being kinder to developing these kinds of systems is another degree of sensibility to these kinds of projects, because it's a lot of work to change the lifestyle. The best thing about in our neighborhood is we've actually softly convinced other people on our street to also have gardens. And so now our street has like 3 or 4 gardens that are the same as ours, as opposed to before when nobody was trying. It kind of opened the way for other people to also try to rebuild their lifestyles to be more sustainable or more based on regenerative economics. So here we're just looking at the future, sustainable livelihoods, how much hard work it takes. Like, it's physically draining to be a gardener. It's a lot of work, and it's kind of putting those large variables into perspective. So if we're having a lot of people stay at home from work, what will they be doing? Well, they'll be growing their own food. Here's green roofs, green terraces, and then a wet landscape. These are all necessities that we require in the future.
Okay, so at the end, we also discussed today, or the whole conference, that whatever we do needs some kind of policy, and that means we need regulatory framework. We need financial incentives. For example, I put solar panel when the microgrid 2 came, and I still get 80 cents kilowatt hour per kilowatt hour. So I don't still make a profit yet. It'll take another 2-3 years, but I would have not done it without that 80 cents guarantee. Okay, so you need financial incentives. I think Olaf is coming tomorrow, I think, to talk about financial part of this. Of course, we all talked about community engagement. Like this morning, Mother said, let's just talk, even that is necessary. And more than that, we still need to monitor ourselves and set targets and do in research, never stops. And of course, most importantly, provide education and outreach programs for everyone from youngest to the oldest. In terms of models, fortunately, we have lots of experience with modeling. We were just doing the wrong problem so far. So we hope that we are going to do a model at the real problem where we want to generate natural capital. Even today, there was a news in Guardian that Europeans decided that they want to do a good thing, but they won't change their lifestyle. Okay, so that's maybe because they're not understanding that they're not going to suffer. They're actually going to gain. They're going to have nicer parks, even though they have more parks than we do. And they're still going to have their bike lanes and so on. So I think there is a misunderstanding education part, but I think that's something that we still have to do. But we could show with agent-based models how these things will change, how their life may actually get better, hopefully, right? And of course, there's all these other models possible now, hybrid models, AI models. You've heard a lot about it in this conference. So we just want to do the same. At the end, of course, we have to take ideas from Keith's work in terms of decision-making and design, because there's going to be a lot of stakeholders. We have to give some kind of compromise. And at the same time, we want overall improve the earth, basically. Okay. And I'm just going to leave it there. We didn't actually do all the references. I think we're on time.
You're perfect timeline. Thank you so much.
We can generate a lot more conversation on the very.
Yeah, so we even brought some things to show later when we have questions.
Yes, absolutely great.
Thank you.
Thank you.